the biggest request we get is for us to tell about how we met, and so we decided that we would tell you guys a little bit about our love story on this video. Tim and I met in 2006 at Lifehouse Theater, right down the street from here, actually, in Redlands. And Tim was the director in my very first show.
My very first time directing at Lifehouse.
And I always just like to say that he just picked me.
So it's really kind of weird. I was actually in another show at the time, and so I couldn't be there for all of the auditions. So I got them to agree that they would videotape the auditions for me so that I could watch them afterwards. And then I would know, what people sounded like and what they looked like and all that sort of thing. So the first time I actually saw her was on that videotape, because I wasn't there for her actual audition.
It's too bad you don't still have it.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't know where that ended up, but you move around and things get lost. So yeah, so I cast her from the videotape, and then the first time I actually saw her in person was at orientation.
So it was a pretty big cast from what I remember. And he didn't have any romantic designs at that point. He was actually dating somebody else. And what I found out later was that he really thought that I was a teenage kid when I was actually 24.
Well, her sister is 10 years younger. And so they were both in the show together. Sisters together in the show. And her sister was 14. And so I'm thinking, they're not going to be 10 years apart. That doesn't... So she probably is pretty close to the age of her sister. And I'm 10 years older than she is. So that made me feel very ancient, asking out this, I don't know, 15, 16 year younger than me person. So, yeah, there was no thought at that point that I was thinking about asking her out.
So, but our mutual friend was in the show, and I got to know him. His name's Bill Fernandez. So, Bill, if you're watching, thank you very much. And he also was in the next show, which is Pinocchio. Tim really didn't have anything to do with that show.
Well, kind of right at the end.
Right at the end of the rehearsal process.
Yeah.
So I got cast in that show to be the puppet master in Pinocchio. So I was on stilts. I had to learn how to walk on stilts. So little known fact, I know how to walk on stilts.
Not even, like performance stilts, but they were like construction working
drywall
stilts. Drywall stilts, which are not made for just, walking around and doing stuff.
So yeah, little known fact. But it required me to have a spotter because I needed to walk around and practice with it. The stage is kind of lumpy and bumpy from, being painted several million times. And so I really needed to practice a whole lot. There's not anything to like break a fall if I were to fall over, things like that. So Tim, they called him in to do some acting coaching right at the end. And
the cast was just not ready for the acting coaching at that point. So I was looking for other things to do, and she needed somebody to spot her. And so we started walking around, and I thought, well, what better way to get her used to doing her stilts and get her mind off actual walking around on stilts was to talk about something else, anything else.
Because I was really nervous. I mean, the first thing that the owner of the stilts, because the Lifehouse did not own the stilts, they had to borrow them from somebody else. The first thing that he says is, yeah, don't put your arms out. If you start to fall, you have to go like this and just let yourself fall over. Otherwise, you're going to break your arm. And he basically assured me that I was going to fall at some point. I never did, though. I did bang my head pretty seriously on an arch in the hallway,
I
but
heard about that.
I never fell, so that was pretty exciting. Thankfully, I had a great spotter.
Yes.
So, but in this whole like walking through hallways and in the parking lot and various places that we decided to try out the stilts, we talked about how I was graduated from college.
All the jobs she's had, her management positions, working at a newspaper, a magazine, and I'm like, oh wow, you're older than I thought.
Yeah,
so
so
I
not
finally asked.
not
Then I
14.
realized, oh wow, okay.
Yes, old enough to date an adult. So
I wasn't dating anyone at that point, and so I was watching the show, and as aforementioned Bill Fernandez came up and mentioned something about somebody thinking I was okay and that I might want to ask them out, and just, little hints and
yes,
dropping some encouragement there. And so it was opening night, right?
yes, he Bill was poking and prodding on my end too. I mean, I very vividly remember him saying something like, "There's a guy that I think is perfect for you." And I was like, "Oh, really? Who is that?" And he goes, "Well, I don't want to mention any names, but his initials are Tim Simpson."
Yes, I believe that was very similar to the way he told me her initials.
Pretty adorable. And so opening night of Pinocchio, he asked me out on our first date.
And she said...
And I said yes, because I, thought he was pretty great. I think you asked me at Denny's. We were at Denny's with the cast.
Right.
And he asked me out.
That's right, because opening night we used to go to Denny's after the show, and we'd all, take over a bunch of tables. Don't do that anymore. We do things backstage.
Yeah, at the theater.
At the theater. But yeah, that was the thing.
That was the thing. Always Denny's. Until like 2 or 3 in the morning. It was serious.
So then let's see. Our first date was the church meeting, right? So there's little groups of the church people that will meet in somebody's house and talk about the sermon and what was going on, and that was our first date with her parents
and a
her
bunch
brothers,
of people from the church
and her sister.
So
and
yeah,
church.
We both grew up in Christian homes, and my family believed very strongly in courtship, and so I, even though I was 24, lived at home, trying to pay off my student loans and save some money and stuff. So I lived at home. That was kind of what my parents and I had agreed on when I was younger. So we went ahead and did the courtship thing. Actually, the rules were really strict, and so we had to have a chaperone. Mm-hmm. Anytime we did anything together.
But I will say, I was 34. I had my own place, and I was off on my own and everything. I mean, we really could have, dated in any way that we wanted to. But we made a decision that we were going to follow the rules. And to this day, I have an amazing relationship with my in-laws because of the respect that we showed them in following the rules.
Well, and it really spoke volumes to me that a 34-year-old man, he could have said, "No way, this is ridiculous.
I'm not doing this."
But he really wanted to be with me, so he was willing to follow the rules of my parents' household, and even though it was hard, that meant a lot to me. So we had lots of chaperones, and our wedding party was full of people who were really excited to see that like the whole thing worked out.
Yeah.
We got together in September, and then a few months later was Christmas, and we were doing theater together this whole time, being in shows, going to see shows, lots of things like that. We did Scrooge together.
Yeah, that was an interesting experience. So I had this mask that I had to wear for one of my characters, and so I would put the glue on, and then she'd have to put the mask on, and then help me get it off after for a change to another character I was doing.
Weren't you green and purple?
Something, yeah.
Very ghostly looking. He was Marley and Scrooge, and I was on the stilts again as the ghost of Christmas yet to come. That was
in this huge hood, you could not even see her face, and she had to wear these, hold these hands that looked like skeleton hands that were coming out, and so you couldn't even tell it was a person.
We'll show a picture.
And she was just huge and imposing, and you would think, there's that girl up there.
Anyway, so right after that, right at the end of Scrooge was our first Christmas together. And he bought me a pass to Disneyland, which was super rad. And I was like feeling super rad because I made him a scrapbook.
But I love the scrapbook. It was a lot more work than me just spending a little bit of money.
It's a Disneyland pass. So, anyway, and then in January, just 3 months after we started dating, he asked me to marry him. Well, he asked my dad if it was okay first.
Yes. And her dad said, yes, but you have to wait. You have to be engaged for at least 9 months.
And we were.
And so we were planning on that anyways, and so it felt like it was all perfect timing with his feelings and when she wanted to have a wedding anyways, and it all worked out really well. So
this Christmas, kind of a dream come true for me was that our entire family, the girls, Tim and I, all together got to do a show, and it was just so much fun for me to have my family all together on stage, on the same stage that we got to meet at.
Oh, and the girls did such a good job. I was so proud of them. They were really, really well done. They weren't in a lot of scenes, so they had to occupy themselves, and so they did a really good job. But when it was time to be on, they were on.
Yeah. So we're looking forward to hopefully when they get a little bit bigger doing more things like that together.
Yeah, they seem to really like it.
So Tim and I we both went to the same college. We both went to California Baptist University in Riverside, California. And we were there in an overlapping year. It was his senior year and it was my freshman year. And we never met. It was really a small college then. But I feel like it was kind of God. He like let us be there at the same time and not meet because maybe it wasn't the right time. Maybe I would have felt like I was like way too young for him or something because we are 10 years apart. But I don't know, Lifehouse is just always going to hold a special place in our hearts because that's what brought us together, and we're just so thankful for that. So that's how we met. That's our little love story. Thank you guys for being interested, and thanks for watching.
If you have any other questions or you're interested, please ask. We can make other videos and share. Put them in the comments. If you're liking our videos, then you might want to subscribe or hit the notification bell, and then you can know when we put out new videos. Trying to do as often as we can.